I'm not going to shout those words. No, I'm above that. Let's just talk about Mortal Kombat 1995 before we get into Mortal Kombat 2021, which hopefully I'll be able to watch and review in a couple of weeks' time. But this was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. It's what got him on the map, really, and allowed him to do Event Horizon, as I said in the review for that film. He chose that over doing the sequel for this, which is something that he, and I think we all, regret. And yes, I will be talking about that next time. It was written by Kevin Droney, based on the games by John Tobias and Ed Boon. It stars Christopher Lambert, Kazuhiro Kitagawa, Bridget Wilson, Lyndon Ashby, and Robin Shue. And I always want to say Christophe Lambert to respect his heritage, but it's what he's credited as in this, so I'll keep it as that. But whatever age I was when I first watched it, I don't think I watched it when it was first released, but I was maybe early teens. I loved it. I've loved the lore of the games. I can't really play them now. I'm terrible at fighting games, I'll admit that. I haven't got the time and energy to get good. But I can watch the, all the cutscenes made into a movie on YouTube, so I'm still in the lore. I love it all. But I've loved that world since I first encountered it, with the first game. And even though I know how some bits are kind of terrible now, some of the CGI just really doesn't hold up. I say some of the sets just really look fake when you actually watch them in HD, that kind of thing. But I still love it, even nearly 40 years old as I am now. And a lot of that can be the casting. Everyone does a great job of being their character. Whilst I will agree that, maybe there's claims of whitewashing, I guess, with Raiden, if we're being completely honest. Anyone else doing that role might not have put that humour into it. I know Lambert was given a lot of freedom to really sort of make the role his, and he loved doing it. He really enjoyed doing the role. It's very apparent the fact that he wasn't meant to be in the Thailand bits, but he was like, no, I'll come out on my own dime. I'm happy with it. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna have fun with this. He really sort of gave a lot of time and energy to this, and that laugh. Sorry. It's just gold. I love it. Robin Shue, obviously, quite new to us at that point in time, and unfortunately hasn't had, a stellar career since, but he does a really good job of Liu Kang. Lyndon Ashby is a perfect Johnny Cage. I mean, this, I think, started the whole Johnny Cages after Sonya, and I love that. It's Sonya herself. Bridget Wilson was a great casting, and I keep wanting to talk about why people didn't come back for the next one, but I'm going to save that till next week. There you go, a reason to come back. But she does a great job. I mean, there was a moment that I was like, have I put the wrong film in? But aside from that, it was a good representation of the character. We have Goro, who was like a huge combination of Tom Woodruff Jr. walking around with arms, and then a remote control puppet with, well, reports differ, but it's definitely double digits of technicians and puppeteers operating it. And the expressions that it can do, the arms move kind of believably. In HD it doesn't look so good, but it's fine for what it was, and it was very, very, very complex puppetry for the budget they had. I do want to say Shang Tsung. I really want to talk about Shang Tsung because, my word, this put Kazuhiro Kitagawa on my radar. As well as the costume, that leather jacket, love it. But his portrayal, everything he says, like, flawless victory, and your soul is mine. All of those deliveries, it's not surprising that these people were asked to come back and voice skins for Mortal Kombat 11. I do think they missed a trick though, because we had different actors playing Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and the human version of Reptile. Now, of course, Scorpion and Sub-Zero appear on the same screen at the same time, so you couldn't have those played by the same actors. But you could have had one of them doing double duty, and I'd have loved that. It would have been a nice nod to the fact that they're all just palette swaps. I mean, the fact that the uniforms are pretty much the same as well. But Scorpion's rendition was interesting to me in this film. I don't know what the public consensus is, but I'm ambivalent, I think is the best way to put it, about the hand creature thing. It fulfills the job of the sort of kunai on a chain or whatever it is, like the sort of chain spear, rope spear. But it's not meant to be an organic thing. It is meant to be rope on a string or whatever. So, but it's an interesting take on it. It's a new idea. And I like that idea. I mean, they do change some things about characters and setups. They do alter certain things for this to make it work better as a film. They fold in little bits of 2, but not much of it at all. There's not many characters from 2. So, I do love that, but I also love the fact that they got him, they embrace the fact that he's a revenant. He pulls his hood off and does the whole fire-breathing thing as a skull face. So they're willing, they had the fight move into the Netherrealm as well. So it's weird that they kind of leaned much further into the weird, I guess, by adding something that wasn't originally there. Although I don't know if at that point it was actually canonised as what it was. Maybe that was the factor. And maybe it was a case of, well, maybe it's something that comes out of his hand. But one of the last characters I really want to talk about is Trevor Goddard's Kano. And this is what led to later portrayals of Kano. Once this had come out, people went, actually, yeah, let's do Kano as kind of like a weird Cockney Aussie somewhere in the middle hybrid. Which is quite weird because Trevor Goddard is from Croydon, or was from Croydon, should I say. But he got a lot of roles, and his persona, if you will, was that of an Aussie. Which is weird, because when I listen to Kano in this film, I don't hear Aussie, I hear Cockney. With a slight, maybe, southern twang, but not southern America's, like Antipodean, Australian kind of twang. Very slight, but to me it's very Cockney. So I just think maybe Americans don't understand the difference between Cockney and Australian, if I'm being brutally honest. But yeah, it is quite sad because Trevor Goddard did in fact die in 2003. It was ruled accidental, but it was an overdose, and there were terrible things happening in his life at the time for him. So I'm not going to make any assumptions. Obviously, what was ruled the case. Maybe he was just taking something to deal with it, and he just went a bit overboard. It's very possible. But it is sad because it was a great portrayal, and that's the reason that in the new version we have an Australian guy clearly as Kano. It's very Australian that time, it's Captain Boomerang levels. But this was a great film. Like I say, it has a lot of flaws. The CGI doesn't stand up. Statues are there that really just look like, as they are, foam painted grey. There's a lot of CGI additions to areas and things like that, to sets. And some of it works, some of it doesn't. There's a whole lot of kind of day to night where it's really obvious that that's the case. When you record something in the day and you colour time it, etc. That whole thing with channel at the start, that's what that is. But, like I say, even with all of that, I love so much of this film. I sat there watching it, really enjoying it. I was nodding along going, yes, this is the world. This is what I've sat down to see. And I hope they put some of that silliness in. The trailers we've seen have been very gritty, dark, kind of Rebirth Legacy, super realistic kind of ways. But Mortal Kombat is a very silly franchise. There's a lot of ridiculousness in it, inherently. And I think it was designed that way from the beginning. It's like, yeah, we know how silly some of this is. But I say that, like the games now, so convoluted, heavy plots, but there are light moments in them. But I do love this film, and I love the fact that it did the thing. Now, a lot of younger people would like post-credit scenes have been a thing forever, pretty much. For all your life, you've probably had some kind of post-credit scenes as a thing that happens in certain films. But before that happened, we actually had that before the credits, so that we could leave the auditorium, the theatre, and actually let the cleaners get on with their job. As much as I love post-credit scenes, putting them before the credits means that the cleaners can do their cleaning. Unless you've got the super fans who want to sit through all the credits and read who everyone was. Which is fair, but you can do that if you get the home release. Let the cleaners do their job. But we had that reveal of Shao Kahn going, no, you haven't won. And I don't know how I didn't know this before, but Shao Kahn's voice in that is provided by Frank Welker. He also did like the reptile chittery voice. Because he's so diverse and great. But it's the same as his Dr. Claw voice in Inspector Gadget.
I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time.
And I just think that's amazing. I love the fact that he was like, you want to just do a line or two? I'll do it in that voice. I can't be bothered. But I do love the fact as well, like right at the end as I'm talking about the credits, there is a thing from the American Humane Association that, I'm not going to get the exact wording right, but it's basically saying thank you to the filmmakers for respecting all life, including tiny little insects, basically. They were so careful, because obviously the reptile scene with all the worms and insects, they were so careful with those that they actually got a recognition from the AHA. But I do want to quickly finish with talking about Art Lean, the insert character that I don't think was necessary in many ways. I barely remember he's in this film. That says a lot. When I watched it, I was like, oh yeah, Art Lean. Yeah, okay. Obviously, his death is brutal, and it sets up, this is the stakes now. Fine. Great for that. But he didn't need to be there. But it does lead me into sort of a supposition or a hope or a theory that people have had about the new version. Louis Tan's character is called Cole Young. Now, the brother of Bi-Han, the original Sub-Zero, was called Kuai Liang. Anglicise that in your head. Kuai Liang, Cole Young. It's not my theory. I've come to it through a number of sources, to be honest. A lot of people have come to this conclusion. But I would say that instead of being an Art Lean style insert character, I do think that that's what they're doing here. They're folding in, because we have a Sub-Zero who freezes Jax's gun, etc., which I think is a reference to a shot where Sub-Zero does the same to a gun of Sonya's, I believe. But he could die at some point during the film, which is then why Cole is brought to the fore and is then trained to be the new Cryomancer Sub-Zero version 2, I guess. But it's an interesting theory, and I can't wait to see what happens with it, but that's a few weeks out. We've still got next week to do, where I talk about Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Please join me, because I don't want to have done it for nothing. And maybe we can all try and figure out why it went wrong together, if we can. But until then, as always, thank you for watching, and take care.
Finish him.